Every wolf in the outer fringes felt it. A deep, primal shiver that raised hackles and set teeth on edge. Pups whimpered in their dens. Warriors shifted instinctively, claws digging into earth. Even the ancient elders, curled in the heart of the territory.
Healer, please save the Alpha, he's dying!
Something was coming. Eulalie felt it before she heard the hoofbeats. She was alone in her small stone den cottage at the forest's ragged edge, stirring a pot of moonbloom tea over the low hearth fire. The air inside smelled of pine resin, dried herbs, and the faint sweetness of night-blooming jasmine that always clung to her clothes. Her dark hair hung loose to her waist, catching flickers of firelight. She wore her usual pale gray tunic, sleeves rolled to the elbows, the fabric soft from years of washing in spring water. Then the sound reached her. Ragged breathing, the creak of a litter being carried, the low, urgent growls of elite warriors trying to keep panic from their voices. She set the wooden spoon down. Her wolf, still unshifted after all these years, surged awake inside her chest, hackles raised, ears pricked. They were coming for her. Eulalie opened the heavy oak door just as torchlight spilled across the mossy threshold. 6 warriors in black leather and silver-trimmed cloaks surrounded a litter made of woven branches and wolf pelts. On it lay Alpha Zebulon Blackthorn. Even wounded, he dominated the space. Broad shoulders strained against torn black fabric. Midnight hair fell across a face carved sharp by pain and battle. A faint silver scar curved along his strong jaw like a warning carved by Fang. His chest rose and fell in shallow, labored breaths. Beneath the ripped tunic, over his heart, something pulsed, dim, unnatural, like embers buried under ash that refused to die. The beta at the front, tall, scarred, amber eyes wild, spoke first, voice rough with exhaustion and fear. Quiet healer, the Alpha is dying. Nothing the high healers have tried has touched it. They sent us to you. Eulalie didn't hesitate. She stepped aside. Bring him in. The warriors lowered the litter carefully just inside the threshold. The scent of blood, sweat, pine smoke, and something darker, something ancient and wrong, flooded her small home. She knelt beside him without a word. Zebulon's eyes were closed, lashes dark against pale skin. Sweat beaded along his brow. His scent hit her like a physical blow. Storm-wild earth, crushed pine needles, smoke from a distant bonfire. And underneath it all, the sharp metallic bite of the curse eating him from the inside. Her hand hovered over his chest. The moment her palm flattened against the ember beneath his skin, the world shattered. Not his memories, hers. Visions flooded her in a relentless rush. Running barefoot through silver grass as a child, laughing as moonlight painted her skin. The day her mother first smiled again after years of silence. Dreams she had never spoken aloud. Standing on a high ridge beside a massive black wolf, his amber eyes locked on hers, the entire pack bowing as one beneath a crimson moon. A balcony overlooking endless forest, his hand fitting perfectly in hers, watching the blood moon rise together. A crown of living moonlight settling on her brow. His arms around her, forehead to forehead, whispering, rest. For tonight, let it be quiet. All of it poured through her like wildfire, clear and merciless. She gasped, yanked her hand back. Zebulon's eyes snapped open, pure molten amber, glowing faintly in the torchlight. For one suspended heartbeat, neither of them breathed. Then the mate bond slammed into place. Instant, deep, feral. It roared through them both like a howl echoing down every corridor of their souls. Mine, mine. The pull was unbreakable, scented with pine and moonlight in him, wrapping around her lungs, her heart, her wolf. Every instinct screamed, protect, claim, love, never let go. Eulalie's neck burned. She looked down. A crescent of pure moonlight bloomed on the side of her throat, small, perfect, shimmering like liquid silver. The mark of the true Luna. Zebulon lifted a trembling hand and traced the crescent with one rough fingertip. His voice was gravel and thunder, barely more than a whisper. You feel me. Tears slipped down Eulalie's cheeks. And you feel me. The warriors froze. Low, stunned growls rumbled in their chests. The quiet healer, the unmarked girl from the fringes who gentled grief with a touch, had just become their Luna, under a crimson moon, right as their alpha lay dying from a curse older than the pack itself. The prophecy had found her, and the man before her, the alpha carrying the heart of shadow, was both her fated mate and her destruction. Chapter 2. The warriors left as silently as they had come. They bowed low at the threshold, deep, respectful dips of head and shoulder, then melted back into the storm-lashed forest, their gray forms vanishing between silvered pines. The litter remained behind, but the torches were extinguished one by one until only the hearth fire and the crimson moon leaking through the open window lit the small den cottage. Eulalie stayed kneeling beside Zebulon. She had not moved her hand from his chest. The ember beneath his skin pulsed in slow, hungry rhythm, like a second heartbeat that wanted to devour the first. Each flare sent a faint tremor through her fingers, up her arm, settling cold and heavy in her own ribs. She didn't pull away. Instead, she breathed slow and deliberate, letting thin threads of her memory touch weave into the darkness. Not to erase, not yet, but to soothe. To quiet the thing enough that he could draw a full breath. Zebulon's eyes remained half open, amber slits reflecting firelight. He watched her without speaking. His wolf was awake behind those eyes. Alert, possessive, starving for the mate scent now flooding the small space. Jasmine, moonlight, pine resin, and the faint sweetness of her skin. After what felt like hours but might have been only one, he spoke. His voice was gravel dragged over stone, rough from pain and disuse. Why stay? Eulalie didn't lift her palm. If I leave, the ember wakes fully. You die. You don't know me. I know enough. She met his gaze steadily. When I touched you, I didn't see your past. I saw mine reflected back through you, like looking into still water and seeing someone else's life staring up. He closed his eyes for a long moment. When they opened again, the amber had deepened, almost to molten gold. The mate bond, he rasped. She nodded once. He exhaled, a sound caught between growl and sigh. They warned me it would feel like this. Who? The elders. The ones who carved the heart of shadow into me before I could even growl properly. His fingers twitched against the litter, as though instinct demanded he reach for her but strength refused. They called it a gift, a safeguard, said it would make me strong enough to lead when no one else could survive the northern passes. They never mentioned it would eat anyone who dared love the one who carries it. Eulalie's throat tightened. She had heard the name in childhood stories, whispered around hearth fires when the moon was low and the wind carried distant howls. The Heart of Shadow, a lunar relic forged in the first wars between wolf packs and the shadow-born things that crawled from the deep forest. It granted unmatched power, at the price of consuming love. Not figuratively, literally. Every tender feeling, every offered heartbeat, every brush of affection fed the ember until the giver was nothing but ash and silence. She had always thought them fairy tales. Now the tale lay breathing beneath her palm. How long have you carried it? She asked softly. Since I was 12. The night my father died in the pass. Shadow beasts tore through the border. They needed a new alpha. They chose me. His mouth curved bitter, fleeting. I didn't understand until the first she-wolf who looked at me too long. She withered in weeks. Fur dull. Eyes empty. I thought it was sickness. Then the elders explained. After that, I stopped letting anyone close. The ember flared, sharper this time, as though it scented the memory and hungered. Eulalie pressed harder, willing calm into it. Zebulon's breath hitched, then eased. You should leave, he murmured. While the bond is still new, while you can still walk away. I'm not afraid of it. You should be. She studied his face, the sharp lines softened by exhaustion, the old scar along his jaw that looked like it had been made by something trying to reach his throat. I've spent my life taking other people's pain, so they don't have to carry it alone. This is no different. It is different. His voice dropped lower, almost a growl. Because this time the pain is mine, and if you take it, you die with me. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft pop of embers in the hearth and the distant rumble of thunder rolling away. Eulalie shifted closer, sitting fully on the packed earth floor now, legs tucked beneath her. She kept her hand where it was. With her free one she reached up, slow, careful, and brushed a damp strand of midnight hair from his forehead. He flinched at first, wolf instincts snarling poison, danger, don't touch, then stilled. Leaned into the contact just enough for her to feel the fever heat radiating from his skin. "You're burning up," she said quietly. "Always am." The heart runs hot. She let her fingers linger. No new visions came this time. Just warmth. Human warmth. Beneath the curse, beneath the ember, he was still flesh and blood and ache. "Tell me something true," she said. He looked at her. Really looked, amber eyes searching hers as though trying to memorize them before they were taken away. "I never wanted this," he said. "The crown, the power, the loneliness. I wanted quiet, a den like this one, a river nearby, someone to sit with at dusk and not have to speak if we didn't want to." Eulalie's chest ached, sharp, helpless. She leaned forward until her forehead rested lightly against his. "Then rest," she whispered. "For tonight, at least, let it be quiet." He closed his eyes. A low sound escaped him, half growl, half sigh of surrender. She stayed like that, forehead to forehead, hand over heart, while the crimson moon slowly slid lower behind the storm clouds. Outside, the wolves quieted one by one, as though the pack itself sensed the fragile equilibrium inside the den. Inside, something new began to grow. Not hope, not yet, but something close, something helpless, something that already knew it would end in ruin, and chose to stay anyway. The bond hummed between them, soft, steady, like a low note held on a distant flute. And somewhere deep in the forest, the moon goddess watched. Chapter 3. 3 days passed like a breath held too long. The crimson moon lingered unnaturally each night, refusing to set fully, as though the moon goddess herself leaned close to watch every tentative step Eulalie and Zebulon took toward one another. Inside the small den cottage the air grew warmer, softer, now scented with the faint sweetness of moonbloom tea she brewed for his strength, the sharp pine resin she rubbed carefully into his scars, and the quiet rhythm of two wolves learning how to share the same small space without shattering everything. Zebulon could stand now. Walk, even slowly, one large hand braced against the rough stone wall or the back of her single wooden chair. The ember in his chest still glowed faintly beneath his skin, but its hunger had dulled to a low simmer whenever Eulalie stayed near. Her touch, brief, careful brushes of fingers when she passed him a cup, or longer presses when she soothed the curse, seemed to lull it, like stroking a wild beast until it curled at your feet instead of lunging. They spoke in fragments at first. Small truths dropped like pebbles into still water, rippling outward. He told her about the northern passes where the heart of shadow had first woken fully, how he had watched a loyal beta fade after a single shared laugh during a hunt, skin turning to parchment, eyes hollowing until nothing looked back. He told her how he had stopped smiling after that, stopped touching anyone, stopped hoping for anything beyond survival and duty. She told him about the first time she took grief from someone and felt it settle in her own chest like wet river stones, how she had cried alone afterward, not for the stranger's loss, but because she realized the pain never truly vanished. It only changed hands, and sometimes the hands that carried it grew tired. They did not speak directly of the mate bond. It was too large, too bright, too terrifying. But it lived in every glance that lingered too long, in every accidental brush of skin when she handed him tea, in every time he looked at the crescent mark on her neck and saw it glowing brighter each day, as though drinking in the moonlight itself. On the third night, the moon hung so low it seemed to rest on the treetops, bathing the silver forest in deep crimson light. Eulalie opened the cottage door and stepped outside. Cool air rushed in, scented with night-blooming jasmine and distant rain. The trees stretched pale and slender before her, leaves shimmering like scattered coins under the bloody glow. Zebulon followed her slowly. He leaned against the doorframe at first, testing his legs, then stepped onto the soft moss that carpeted the ground outside. He wore one of her spare gray cloaks, too small for his broad shoulders, but it kept the chill from the wound. She turned to him. Walk with me. He hesitated, amber eyes flickering with both longing and fear. The bond, it's stronger tonight. I don't want to hurt you. You won't. Not tonight. He pushed off the frame and came to her side. They walked in silence down a narrow path that wound between the trees. Moonlight filtered through the canopy in thin crimson shafts, painting shifting patterns across their faces and arms. Wolves sang in the distance. Not grief now, but something softer, almost welcoming, as though the pack sensed the fragile new thread weaving between their alpha and his Luna. After a time they reached a small clearing where the ground dipped into a shallow basin of smooth stones. A spring bubbled at its center, water black and mirror still under the crimson light, reflecting the moon like spilled blood. Eulalie sat on a flat rock at the edge. Zebulon lowered himself beside her, careful, slow, as though every movement might wake the thing inside him. For a long while they simply watched the water reflect the moon. Then he spoke, voice quiet enough that the night almost swallowed it. I dreamed of this place once, before the heart. I was a boy. I thought, if I could find a clearing like this, sit with someone, and just be, maybe the world would leave me alone. Eulalie turned her head. And now I'm here. He looked at her. Really looked, amber eyes fierce and unguarded. With you, and the world still won't leave us alone. She reached out, slow, and placed her hand over his on the rock between them. His fingers were cool, calloused from years of holding weapons, reins, and the weight of an entire pack. Hers were warmer, softer, marked only by faint silver lines where old griefs had left their traces. The moment their skin met, the bond hummed soft, steady, like a low note held on a distant flute. She felt it pull at her, gently at first, then deeper. A faint ache bloomed behind her ribs, as though something were sipping at her breath. Not pain exactly, more like the slow bleed of a small cut you don't notice until the cloth is stained. She did not pull away. Instead, she laced her fingers through his. Tell me something else true, she said. He stared at their joined hands for a long moment. I'm afraid, he admitted, voice rough. Not of dying, of taking you with me. Every time you touch me, I feel it, the heart drinking. Not much, not yet, but it's there. And I can't stop it. Eulalie squeezed his hand once. I know. Then why? Because I've spent my life giving pieces of myself away so others could keep breathing. This is no different. She turned to face him fully. Crimson moonlight caught in her eyes, turning the gray almost silver. Except this time, I want to give it, not out of duty, because it's you. Zebulon's breath caught. He lifted their joined hands, slow, reverent, and pressed his lips to her knuckles. The kiss was feather-light, barely there, but it sent warmth flooding through her chest, chasing away the faint ache for one perfect heartbeat. When he lowered their hands again, his voice was rougher. I don't deserve that. You don't have to deserve it, she said softly. You just have to let it happen. He looked at her then, open, unguarded, the amber in his eyes flickering with something brighter than the ember ever could be. They sat like that until the crimson moon began its slow descent. When they rose to walk back, Eulalie felt it again, the small, steady pull at her center. Her steps were a fraction slower on the return path. Her breath came a little shallower. She said nothing. Zebulon noticed anyway. He stopped at the cottage door, turned her gently to face him. You're fading, he whispered, voice cracking on the word. She smiled, small, sad, beautiful. Only a little. He cupped her face with both hands, careful, as though she were made of moonlight and might dissolve. I will leave at dawn, he said, before it takes more. Eulalie placed her hands over his. No, she answered simply. You won't. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. Eulalie, I would rather fall helplessly, she said, voice steady even as tears slipped free, than live untouched. He closed his eyes. A low sound escaped him, half growl, half sob. Then he pulled her close, slow, careful, arms wrapping around her, as though she were the only solid thing left in the world. She rested her forehead against his chest, listening to the dual heartbeat beneath. His, strong and human. The embers, dark and slow. The wolves sang on. The moon watched. And in the silver forest, two souls already doomed leaned into one another, helpless, hopeless, and for one night whole. Chapter 4. Dawn arrived pale and reluctant, the crimson moon finally dipping below the horizon but leaving the sky bruised purple, as though reluctant to release its hold on the night. Eulalie woke first, curled on the floor beside the litter, one hand still resting lightly over Zebulon's heart. The ember had quieted during the small hours, its pulses slow and even, lulled by her nearness. She felt the drain now, a subtle heaviness in her limbs, a faint chill beneath her skin that no fire could chase away. But she pushed it aside. There would be time to feel it later. Zebulon stirred soon after. His amber eyes opened, clearer than they had been in days. He looked at her, really looked, and something raw flickered across his face. "You didn't sleep," he said. "Not a question." "I rested." She smiled faintly. "Enough." He reached up, stronger now, and caught her wrist gently, thumb brushing the crescent mark on her neck. It glowed softly under his touch, warm and responsive. "You're paler," he growled low. "The bond is pulling harder." "I know." She didn't lie to him. "But I'm still here." Before he could argue, hoofbeats echoed through the trees, sharp, purposeful. Eulalie rose and opened the door. A single rider approached. A young beta female in silver-trimmed black, crescent mark already bright on her own neck. She did not dismount. Her horse stamped restlessly, steam curling from its nostrils in the cool morning air. The beta's voice carried clear and formal, though her eyes flicked nervously toward the den. "Luna-elect Eulalie. The elders convene in the great stone circle at moonrise. Alpha Blackthorn weakens by the hour. The pack cannot remain leaderless. Borders fray. Young wolves grow restless. Disputes rise in the ranks. The moon goddess has marked you. You must be crowned Luna tonight, to guide and guard Silverfang until our alpha stands strong again." She extended a sealed scroll of moon-bleached parchment. Eulalie took it without a word. The wax seal bore the pack's sigil, a crescent moon pierced by a single fang. The beta bowed once from the saddle. "The elders expect you alone. But if the bond demands otherwise..." She glanced toward the open door, where Zebulon now stood braced against the frame, eyes narrowed. "Bring him. The pack will accept what the goddess has bound." With that, she turned her mount and vanished down the forest path. Eulalie closed the door softly. She unrolled the scroll. Elegant script confirmed the beta's words. The pack needed its Luna now. Not tomorrow. Not when the alpha healed. Now. Zebulon crossed the room in 3 slow strides. He took the scroll from her fingers, read it in silence, then rolled it closed. "They want you crowned tonight," he said flatly. "Regent in all but name until I'm whole. They always planned for a Luna to steady the pack if the alpha faltered." Eulalie replied quietly. "It's old law, practical. The elders aren't cruel, they're desperate." He set the scroll on the table with deliberate care. "You'd rule without me. Not without you." She stepped in front of him, blocking the window's pale light. "The bond won't let me leave your side for long. Last night you tried to step outside alone. Made it 10 paces before the pull dragged you back. Shaking. You woke me with your forehead pressed to the door." His jaw tightened. "It's getting worse." "I know." She lifted his chin until he met her gaze. "The elders will expect me alone. They'll see the crescent, crown me, and think the prophecy fulfilled, at least enough to calm the pack. But I won't stay in the circle without you. I won't lead without you." Zebulon's eyes flashed, possessive, protective, terrified. "You don't understand what the heart does when it's denied. It lashes out, finds the closest warmth. If I stay near you during the ritual, then we face it together." She placed both hands on his chest, over the ember, over his heart. "I'm already fading a little every time I touch you. Look at me." He did. Her skin was paler than yesterday, almost luminous in the dim light, like moonlight trapped under thin glass. Faint shadows bloomed beneath her eyes. When she breathed, it came shallower, as though the air had grown thinner. Zebulon made a low, pained sound in his throat. "I'm killing you." "You're not." She stepped closer until their bodies nearly touched. "The curse is, and I'm choosing this. Every day. Every breath I give is mine to give." He cupped her face, thumbs tracing the shadows under her eyes as though he could wipe them away with sheer will. "I don't want to watch you disappear." "Then don't watch." She rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his soft, brief, the first real kiss between them. It tasted of pine smoke, salt, and something sweeter, something desperate. When she pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I'll go with you," he whispered. "But if it starts to take too much, if you fade too fast, I will leave. Even if the bond tears me apart trying to follow." She nodded once. They spent the day in quiet preparation. Eulalie packed a small satchel. Dried moon bloom for strength, a vial of spring water from the clearing, the gray cloak he had worn the night before. Zebulon sharpened the short ritual blade he carried at his belt. Not for battle, but in case the elders demanded proof of his willingness to die rather than harm her. As dusk fell, they stepped out together. The silver forest seemed to lean toward them, branches brushing their shoulders, leaves whispering in a wind that carried no sound. Wolves flanked them at a distance, gray shapes slipping between trees, escorting rather than hunting. By moonrise, they reached the edge of the great stone circle at the heart of Silverfang territory. Massive pale stones rose in a perfect ring, veined with silver that caught and held the moonlight. Torches burned at intervals, but the true light came from above. The moon, still tinged crimson at the edges, pouring down like liquid fire. Guards in black and silver stood at attention. Their eyes widened as they recognized the Alpha, and the woman beside him with the glowing crescent on her neck. One guard stepped forward. "Luna-elect Eulalie, Alpha Blackthorn." His voice faltered only slightly. "The elders await in the circle." Eulalie lifted her chin. "We enter together." The guard hesitated, then bowed. They walked through the stones side by side. The pack had gathered thousands of wolves and shifted humans, filling the tiers of natural rock seats, silent, watching. Moonlight caught on every face, turning eyes to silver mirrors. No cheers, no music, only the soft pad of feet and the distant howl that rose and fell like breath. At the center of the circle, the elders waited, 7 figures in robes of midnight blue, hoods drawn low. The eldest stepped forward, a woman with hair like frost and eyes sharp as flint. "Eulalie of the outer fringes," she said. "The crescent has marked you. The pack needs its Luna to lead until Alpha Blackthorn heals. Step forward to receive your crown." Eulalie did not move. She looked at Zebulon, then back at the elders. "I will receive it," she said clearly. "But not alone. The mate bond has spoken. He is part of this destiny as much as I am." A murmur rippled through the gathered wolves. The eldest's gaze flicked to Zebulon's chest, where the ember pulsed faintly beneath his tunic. "The heart of shadow," she said. "You bring destruction to our Luna before she is even crowned." "I bring what the moon goddess has bound to her," Zebulon answered, voice low and dangerous. "If you want her, you take us both." The elders exchanged glances. The eldest lifted one hand. "Bring them into the light. The ceremony proceeds. But know this." Her eyes locked on Eulalie. "The moment the crown touches your brow, the bond will be tested. If the heart drains you, the pack will not mourn a Luna who chose ruin over rule." Eulalie stepped forward, Zebulon at her side. "I'm not choosing ruin," she said softly, for his ears alone. "I'm choosing you. And them." They entered the pool of moonlight together, and the night held its breath. Chapter 5. The great stone circle of Silverfang thrummed with quiet power. Thousands of pack members filled the natural tiers of rock, wolves shoulder to shoulder in fur, humans standing tall in leather and silver-trimmed cloaks. No torches burned. The crimson-tinged moon poured through the open sky above, turning every surface to frost and shadow, every eye to gleaming silver. The air smelled of pine smoke from distant bonfires, damp earth, and the sharp musk of hundreds of wolves holding their breath. In the exact center of the circle, Moonlight pooled in a perfect, shimmering disk, like a still lake waiting to be stepped into. The 7 elders formed their ring around it, robes of midnight blue rippling faintly as though stirred by an unseen wind. The eldest held the crown between her palms, a living thing of woven silver vines and captured moonlight, pulsing softly with its own gentle heartbeat. Eulalie stood at the edge of the silver pool, Zebulon at her right shoulder. Their hands brushed, once briefly, before she stepped forward alone into the light. The moment her bare foot crossed the glowing rim, the mate bond sang. It was no longer the gentle hum of the past nights. This was louder, sharper. A chord struck hard enough to vibrate through bone and sinew. The crescent on her neck flared bright, almost blinding, and the ember in Zebulon's chest answered with a low, hungry throb that echoed in her own ribs. The eldest raised the crown higher. "Children of Silverfang," she intoned, voice carrying to every corner of the circle without effort. "Do you accept Eulalie, marked by the crescent, as your Luna, to guide, to guard, to steady the pack until our alpha rises once more?" Howls rose in waves. Deep, rolling agreement edged with worry and hope. The sound vibrated through the stones, through Eulalie's chest, through the bond itself. The eldest stepped closer. "Do you, Luna-elect, accept this weight, for pack, for mate, for moon?" Eulalie lifted her chin. "I do." The words echoed once, then twice, as though the circle itself repeated them. As the crown descended toward her brow, the heart of Shadow woke fully. It was not gradual. One heartbeat she was steady. The next, a cold fist reached inside her chest and squeezed. Air thinned in her lungs. Her vision flickered at the edges. Moonlight dimming, then flaring too bright. The ache she had carried for days sharpened into something precise, almost elegant. A slow, deliberate draining, as though the curse had finally tasted true warmth and craved more. She swayed. Zebulon moved, instinctive, feral. But the elders raised their hands in unison. Invisible threads of old pack magic wrapped around him, holding him rooted. He snarled low, amber eyes blazing, muscles straining against the bonds. "Do not interfere, Alpha," the eldest said calmly. "This is her trial. To lead, she must endure." Eulalie locked eyes with Zebulon across the silver pool. She saw it in his face. The terror, the guilt, the helpless fury. He was fighting not for himself, but for her. Every vein stood out along his neck. Every breath came ragged. She smiled at him, small, trembling, but real. "I'm still here," she whispered. The crown touched her brow. Light exploded. Not from the crown, from them. The bond ignited. For one suspended moment, the circle vanished. No elders, no wolves, no stones. Only the two of them. They stood together in a place that was not a place. Endless silver grass under a crimson sky, the same clearing from her dreams. The spring bubbled at their feet. Wolves circled at a distance, eyes glowing soft amber. Zebulon reached for her, hands shaking. She met him halfway, their fingers laced. In that shared vision, the bond showed them everything. Fragments of past lives. Lives they had lived before, knotted together across centuries. A healer and a warrior. A quiet den and a shadowed guardian. Always the same pattern. She gave, he took, love burned bright, then out. Always the same ending. But this time felt different. Because this time she knew. And she chose anyway. The vision snapped back. The crown settled fully on her brow. Cool at first, then warm, as though it recognized her. The elders lowered their hands. The magical threads around Zebulon dissolved. He staggered forward, caught her as her knees buckled. She clung to him, arms around his neck, face pressed to his chest. The drain was stronger now, visible in the way her skin paled further, in the faint tremor in her fingers, in the way her breath came in shallow sips. The eldest spoke again, voice softer now, almost sorrowful. "Luna Eulalie, you are crowned. Guide Silverfang until our alpha heals. But the heart of Shadow has tasted its Luna. The bond is sealed. If you do not sever it soon." "I will not sever it," Eulalie said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried, like moonlight on water. She lifted her head from Zebulon's chest, looked at the elders. I will not sever it. A murmur rippled through the circle. Shock, fear, awe. Zebulon's arms tightened around her. Eulalie, he rasped. Look at yourself. She did not need to. She could feel it. The cold seeping deeper, the crescent on her neck flickering like a candle in wind. Her strength was ebbing, slowly, steadily, drop by drop. But she turned in his arms, faced the elders fully. I am your Luna, she said, and I choose him. The prophecy spoke of helpless love, of ruin. I accept both. If Silverfang needs a Luna who will burn for her pack, then let me burn for the one who carries its oldest wound. The eldest stared at her, long searching. Then she bowed once deep. So be it. The circle erupted, not in cheers, but in a single rising howl from every wolf present. It rolled through the stones, through the night, out into the silver forest. Acceptance, mourning, defiance. Zebulon pulled her closer, buried his face in her hair. I'm sorry, he whispered against her temple. I'm so sorry. She reached up, cupped his jaw. Don't be. Tears slipped down her cheeks, slow, silver in the moonlight. I would rather fade loving you, she said, than live forever untouched. He kissed her then, slow, desperate, tasting of salt and pine and the last sweetness before ruin. The crown glowed brighter on her brow. The bond hummed, stronger, hungrier, unbreakable. And somewhere deep inside her, the drain quickened. But she held him tighter, because for this moment, for this night, she was Luna, and he was hers. Chapter 6. The Pack Palace rose at the very heart of Silverfang territory, a massive structure of dark timber and pale stone veined with silver, built into the side of a low ridge so that its eastern tower overlooked the endless forest like a watchful sentinel. Moonlight poured through high arched windows in long, pale rivers, turning marble floors to frost and casting every shadow sharp and deep. The air inside carried the scent of aged pine, wolf musk, and the faint sweetness of moonbloom incense burned in silver braziers to honor the goddess. Eulalie walked the corridors slowly now. Her coronation gown, thin silver silk that shimmered like spilled moonlight, trailed behind her like a living thing. The crown still rested light on her brow, no longer blazing with ritual fire but humming softly, a constant reminder of the weight she carried. Zebulon walked beside her, close enough that their arms brushed with every step, far enough that the ember in his chest did not flare too violently. He had changed into formal black tunic and cloak edged in silver wolf fur, but the scar along his jaw still caught the light like a warning. They had been given the Luna's private wing. High in the eastern tower, rooms overlooking the silver forest and the distant clearing where they had first sat together under crimson light. Guards stood at every corridor turn, silent and watchful, but no one followed them inside. The heavy door to the royal chambers closed behind them with a soft, final click. Silence settled, thick, heavy with everything unsaid. Eulalie crossed to the wide balcony doors and pushed them open. Cool night air rushed in, scented with jasmine and pine. She stepped out, hands resting on the stone balustrade, looking down at the forest that had once been her only home. Zebulon followed. He stopped just behind her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him, the faint tremor in his breath. You're shaking, he said quietly. She turned to face him. I'm tired, she admitted. That's all. It was more than tired. The drain had deepened since the crown touched her brow. Her skin looked almost translucent in the moonlight, veins faintly visible beneath, blue threads under pale glass. When she lifted her hand to brush hair from her face, the motion was slower, as though moving through water. Her heartbeat felt distant, like an echo in an empty room. Zebulon reached for her, then stopped himself, fingers curling into fists at his sides. I can feel it, he said. Every time you breathe, it takes a little more. The heart, it's quieter when I'm near you, but only because it's feeding on you. She stepped closer until the space between them vanished. Then let it feed, she whispered. For tonight. He shook his head, sharp, pained. I can't watch this. You're not watching. She took his hand, placed it over her heart. Beneath her palm she felt his own heartbeat, strong, steady, human. You're here. With me. His other arm came around her waist, careful, as though she might shatter. He pulled her against him, forehead resting against hers. They stood like that for a long time, bodies pressed close, breathing in rhythm, the bond humming between them like a low, mournful song. Eventually she drew back just enough to look up at him. Show me the clearing again, she said. He frowned. The vision. No. The real one. Take me there. It's too far. I can walk. She smiled, small, stubborn. Or you can carry me. But I want to see it under moonlight. One more time. Zebulon searched her face, looking for the lie, the weakness she was hiding. He found only quiet determination. He lifted her without another word, arms under her knees and back, gentle as though she weighed nothing. She rested her head against his shoulder, crown still glowing faintly, and closed her eyes as he carried her down the tower stairs, past the silent guards, out through a side gate no one questioned. The silver forest welcomed them. Branches parted as though they remembered. Wolves shadowed them at a distance. Gray ghosts with amber eyes, silent escort. When they reached the clearing, the spring still bubbled soft and black under the moon. The stones around it gleamed like scattered pearls. Zebulon set her down carefully on the flat rock where they had sat before. He knelt in front of her, hands on her knees. She cupped his face. Tell me you don't regret this, she said. I regret every second it hurts you. His voice cracked. But I don't regret you. Never you. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Slow, silver. She leaned forward and kissed him. Deeper this time, slower, tasting of moonlight and salt and goodbye that had not yet come. He kissed her back. Desperate, reverent, hands sliding into her hair, crown tilting but not falling. When they parted, both were breathing hard. She rested her forehead against his. I've been seeing things, she whispered. Visions again. Not ours. Mine. Alone. The palace halls empty of my name. Wolves howling for a Luna they no longer remember. You standing on this balcony alone. The heart quiet. You breathing easier. But your eyes empty, like someone carved the light out. Zebulon's arms tightened around her. That won't happen. It might. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. If the drain keeps going, if I keep giving, one day, there might be nothing left to remember. He shook his head, fierce. I'll find a way. The elders, the old texts, something. There is no way, she said gently. The heart was made to destroy love. And I love you. Helplessly. Completely. He closed his eyes, tears slipping free, tracing silver paths down his cheeks. Then let me go, he begged. Let me walk into the deep forest. Let the curse take me instead. She shook her head. No, Eulalie. I would rather fade loving you, she said again, voice steady even as her own tears fell faster. Than live forever untouched. He pulled her into his lap then, arms wrapping around her, holding her against his chest as though he could shield her from the thing inside him. She curled into him, small, fragile, crown glowing like a dying star. They sat like that until the moon began its slow descent. The wolves howled once, long, mournful. Eulalie lifted her head. I need to tell you something, she whispered. He waited. When the time comes, when there's almost nothing left, I will use my gift one last time. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. I'll erase myself from every memory, every story, every heart, so you can live without guilt, without pain, without carrying what I chose to give. Zebulon's breath stopped. No. Yes. She pressed her palm over his heart, over the ember. Because I love you enough to let you forget me, so you can keep breathing, so Silverfang can keep its alpha. Tears streamed down his face now, silent, unstoppable. I won't forget you, he rasped. I can't. You will. She smiled through her own tears, soft, heartbreaking. And that's how I'll save you. He buried his face in her neck, shoulders shaking. She held him tighter. The spring bubbled on. The moon watched. And in the silver clearing, a Luna already fading leaned into the alpha who would destroy her, and chose, one last time, to stay. Chapter 7. The palace became a cage of moonlight and silence in the days that followed. Eulalie's chambers, high in the eastern tower, were beautiful in the way forgotten legends are beautiful. Pale marble walls veined with silver, tapestries of woven moonlight depicting ancient Lunas who had ruled long and died old. Wide windows that framed the silver forest like a painting that never changed. Servants moved through the rooms like ghosts, leaving trays of moonbloom tea, fresh linens scented with jasmine, vials of strengthening elixirs that no one truly believed would help. They never met her eyes. They never spoke above whispers. She spent most hours in the wide bed, propped against pillows of soft gray wool, the crown resting on a velvet stand beside her. It still glowed, fainter now, as though it too were tiring. Her skin had taken on a translucent sheen. In strong light you could see the faint blue map of veins beneath, the slow pulse of blood that moved more sluggishly each day. Her breathing came in shallow sips. When she lifted her hand to brush hair from her face, the motion trembled. Zebulon rarely left her side. He sat on the edge of the bed or paced the balcony, hands clenched at his sides as though he could strangle the curse inside him if he gripped hard enough. He had torn through the palace archives. Old scrolls yellowed with age, forbidden grimoires locked behind silver wards, even the elders' private collections sealed with ancient runes, searching for any rite, any relic, any forgotten spell that might siphon the heart of shadow without killing its bearer or its victim. He found nothing. The elders had tried once, 3 nights after the coronation. They came in a solemn procession, 7 hooded figures bearing silver bowls of moon water and bundles of nightshade bound with wolf sinew. They proposed a ritual of severance. Eulalie would place her hands on Zebulon's chest while they chanted, drawing the ember's hunger into a crystal vial that would then be buried beneath the deepest roots of the silver forest. She refused. "I will not let you cage what I chose to free," she told them, voice thin but steady. "The heart is part of him. If you tear it out, you tear him apart." The eldest had looked at her with something close to pity. "You are already a part, Luna. Look at yourself." Eulalie had smiled small, sad. "Then let me be a part with him." They left without argument. Now the days blurred. Zebulon brought her to the balcony each evening when the moon rose. He carried her if her legs would not hold, set her in a cushioned chair, wrapped her in furs against the chill she could no longer feel properly. They watched the silver forest together, wolves moving like silver shadows below, the distant clearing a faint gleam in the dark. One night she reached for his hand without speaking. He took it, careful, as though her fingers might crumble. "I'm seeing more visions," she said quietly. He tensed. "Not of the past, of after. Tell me." She looked out at the moon. "I see the palace empty of my name. Servants passing my chambers without pause. Wolves howling for a Luna they no longer remember. You standing on this balcony alone. The heart quiet. You breathing easier. But your eyes empty, like someone carved the light out." Zebulon's grip tightened. "That won't happen." "It will." She turned to him. "Because I'm going to make it happen." He shook his head, slow, fierce. "No." "Yes." She lifted her free hand to his cheek. Her touch was cool now, almost insubstantial. The memory touch isn't just for taking grief. Can take everything. Every trace. Every whisper of me that ever existed in any mind, including yours. His breath caught, sharp, pained. "You can't." "I can." Tears slipped down her cheeks. Slow, silver, catching moonlight. "And I will. When there's almost nothing left of me. When the drain has taken everything but the last breath. I'll touch you, one final time, and erase myself. From every memory. From every story. From the wolves' songs and the elders' scrolls and the children's tales by the hearth. You'll wake one morning and feel lighter. The heart will quiet. You'll rule. You'll live." Zebulon's tears fell then. Silent, unstoppable. "I don't want to live without you." You will. She leaned forward, slow, trembling, and pressed her lips to his forehead. Because I love you enough to make sure you do. He pulled her into his arms, careful, desperate, holding her against his chest as though he could anchor her to the world with sheer will. She rested her head over the ember, listening to the dual heartbeat that had become as familiar as her own. I'm not afraid, she whispered. I am, he answered, voice raw. I'm terrified. She smiled against his tunic. Then be terrified with me, until the end. They stayed like that until the moon began its descent. The next morning she could no longer stand. Zebulon carried her to the bed, laid her down gently, arranged the furs around her like a nest. He sat beside her, holding her hand, thumb tracing the fading crescent on her neck. The elders came again. Quiet this time, no ritual bowls, no chants. The eldest stood at the foot of the bed. It is time, she said softly. The moon has begun to wane. If the severance is to happen, it must be now, before she fades completely. Eulalie looked at Zebulon. He shook his head once, sharp. No, the eldest sighed. Then she will take you with her, Alpha. The heart will consume you both. Eulalie squeezed his hand, weak, but deliberate. Let them try, she whispered. One last time. Zebulon looked at her, eyes wild, broken. I can't lose you. You won't lose me. Tears slipped free again. You'll just forget you ever had me. And that's how I save you. He bowed his head, shoulders shaking. The elders stepped closer. Eulalie lifted her trembling hand toward Zebulon's chest. The room stilled. Moonlight caught the crescent on her neck. One final flicker. She touched him, and the memories began to unravel. Chapter 8. Moonlight flooded the royal chamber one final time, pale and merciless, turning every surface to silver and shadow. The elders had withdrawn, silent, heads bowed, robes whispering against marble as they left the Luna and her Alpha alone with what must come. No chance, no silver bowls, no final pleas. They understood, at last, that some bonds could not be severed by will or magic or time. They could only be honored even in breaking. Eulalie lay against the pillows, furs drawn high around her shoulders, though she no longer felt cold. Her skin was almost luminous now, thin as parchment lit from within, veins tracing faint blue rivers beneath. The crescent on her neck flickered like the last ember of a dying fire. Her breathing was so shallow it barely stirred the air. Zebulon knelt beside the bed, one hand cradling hers, the other pressed flat over his own heart, over the ember that had quieted to a dull, steady glow. It no longer hungered so fiercely. It had taken what it needed, and still it took. He had stopped fighting. He had stopped begging. He simply stayed. Eulalie's eyes, still the soft gray of winter dawn, found his. I'm ready, she whispered. He shook his head once, slow, helpless. I'm not. She smiled, small, heartbreaking, beautiful. You will be. She lifted her free hand, trembling, fragile, and placed it beside the one he already held over his chest. Palm to palm over the ember, skin to skin over the curse that had bound them and would soon unbind them. The bond sang one final time, clear, bright, aching. A note so pure it hurt to hear. Visions flickered between them. Not the shared pasts of before, but fragments of what had been theirs alone. The first night in her den cottage, foreheads touching, quiet settling around them like snow. The clearing under moonlight, hands laced, wolves watching from the trees. The stone circle, crown descending, her defiant smile across the silver pool. The balcony, her head on his shoulder, the forest breathing below. Every stolen kiss, every tear, every whispered truth. They passed between them like leaves on a slow river. Beautiful, fleeting, final. Eulalie's voice came softer now, barely more than breath. I love you, Zebulon Blackthorn, helplessly, completely, to the very last. He leaned forward, forehead pressing to hers, tears falling onto her cheeks. I love you, Eulalie, beyond memory, beyond ruin, always. She closed her eyes. The memory touch rose within her one last time. It did not pull. It did not tear. It simply released. She poured herself outward, not as grief taken, not as pain eased, but as everything she had ever been. Every laugh in the outer fringes, every healing touch in the night, every quiet promise under moonlight, every heartbeat offered to him. The crescent on her neck flared once, bright, blinding, then dimmed forever. Her hand grew lighter against his chest. Lighter, lighter, until it was no heavier than moonlight itself. Zebulon felt the shift, the sudden quiet inside him. The ember cooled, the hunger stilled, the curse slept. He opened his eyes. The bed was empty. The furs lay undisturbed, as though no one had ever rested there. The crown sat on its velvet stand, glowing softly, but alone. No trace of her remained. Not a strand of dark hair on the pillow. Not a scent of moonbloom on the air. Not even the echo of her breathing. He reached out, slow, trembling, and touched the place where her hand had been. Nothing. He looked down at his own chest. The ember was dark now, silent, still. A faint scar where fire had once burned. He waited for grief. It did not come. He waited for memory. The den cottage, the clearing, the balcony, her smile, her tears, her voice saying, "I would rather fade loving you than live forever untouched." Nothing rose, only a strange, hollow peace. He stood slow, steady, walked to the balcony doors and pushed them open. The silver forest stretched below, unchanged. Wolves howled in the distance. Not mourning, not welcoming, simply living. He placed his hands on the balustrade. The night wind carried pine and jasmine. He breathed it in deep, easy, for the first time in years. Somewhere in the palace, servants passed the Luna's chambers without pause. In the great stone circle, elders spoke of the new reign, strong, unburdened. In the outer fringes, children listened to tales of Lunas who ruled long and died old. No one remembered a quiet healer who had loved an alpha and chosen to fade so he might live. No one remembered her name. Zebulon looked up at the moon, waning now, silver and calm. A faint ache stirred in his chest. Not pain, not grief, just something. A whisper of warmth he could not name. He closed his eyes. "Thank you," he said to the night, to the forest, to the empty space beside him. The wind answered with jasmine. And in the silver clearing, far below, the spring bubbled on, soft, eternal, alone. The moon watched, the wolves sang, and somewhere beyond memory, beyond ruin, a bond endured. Quiet, helpless, whole. Chapter 9. Centuries turned like slow seasons in Silverfang territory. The forest grew thicker, borders expanded under generations of alphas. Pups became warriors, warriors became elders, and legends softened into half-remembered tales told by firelight. The heart of shadow faded from active memory, reduced to a cautionary whisper about an ancient curse that once threatened the pack but was somehow overcome. The great stone circle still stood. The spring in the clearing still bubbled. But few remembered why those places felt sacred in a way that tugged at the chest without explanation. Zebulon Blackthorn remained. The relic's dark gift had granted him unnatural longevity. Centuries of rule without gray in his midnight hair or weariness in his amber eyes. He led with quiet strength. Borders secure, young wolves trained, disputes settled fairly. But his wolf never truly settled. On every full moon he ran alone to the old clearing, stood beside the spring, and breathed deep as though waiting for a scent that never arrived. The pack noticed their alpha's solitary runs but never questioned them. Some things were simply part of who he was. Under a pure silver moon, not crimson, not bloodied, a girl was born in the outer dens. Dark-haired, gray-eyed, daughter of a beta healer and a quiet scout. They named her Lyriel. As she grew, her wolf stirred gently, patient as Eulalie's once had been. And when she was old enough to understand touch, the gift awakened. Memory touch. With a palm to temple or hand, she could see pains and joys, draw the sharpest grief into herself, and smooth it gentle. She never asked for payment. She simply healed, quietly, steadily, the way moonlight touches the forest without fanfare. By 23 she was known in the fringes as the new quiet healer. Her scent carried faint jasmine and pine that made older wolves pause, tilt their heads, and frown as though trying to place a half-forgotten memory. But no one connected the dots. Time had done its work too well. During the full moon festival in the central clearing, bonfires roaring, wolves shifting and dancing in joyous runs, drums echoing through the trees, Liriel wandered near the ancient spring. The pack celebrated. Laughter, howls of triumph, young pairs stealing kisses in the shadows. She smiled at the joy of it but felt a quiet pull toward the water's edge, as though something waited there. Across the flames, amber eyes locked on hers. Zebulon froze mid-step. His wolf surged forward in his mind, howling one word so loud it drowned everything else. Mate. The pull snapped. Familiar, fierce, free of shadow. Liriel's neck burned. She gasped, hand flying to her throat. A crescent of pure moonlight bloomed there. Small, perfect, shimmering like liquid silver under the festival fires. Visions flickered. Not new memories, but echoes rising from deep water. Bare feet running through silver grass as a child. A scarred jaw under her fingers. Foreheads touching in a small den. Quiet settling like snow. A promise whispered, "Find me again." A crown of living moonlight settling on her brow. A final touch, a final release, and the words. The moon goddess promised, "Love like ours doesn't end. It waits." Liriel's knees buckled. Zebulon crossed the clearing in long strides, warriors parting instinctively. He stopped before her, inhaling deeply. Her scent wrapping around him like an old embrace he had waited lifetimes to feel again. "You," his voice cracked, rough with centuries of waiting. "Your soul, I know it, like moonlight on pine, like home." Liriel's gray eyes, storm-soft, winter dawn gray, widened. Tears slipped free before she understood why. "I've dreamed of you," she whispered. A black wolf with amber eyes, carrying a shadow in his chest. "You told me to rest, for one quiet night. And then you begged me not to leave. But I did. I had to, so you could live." His hand trembled as he lifted it to trace the crescent on her neck. The mark flared under his touch, warm, bright, alive. No drain, only pure recognition. "The goddess kept her promise," he rasped. "You came back. Same soul, same light, same impossible love." Tears streamed down Liriel's cheeks now. "I feel it too. Pieces, a clearing, a bond that burned, a choice to fade so you could breathe free. I chose you then." Her voice steadied, fierce and soft at once. "I choose you now." He pulled her close, careful, reverent, arms enveloping her as wolves around them began a low, welcoming song that rose into a joyous chorus. No curse stirred, no drain pulled, only the mate bond, whole, hungry in the best way, eternal. The pack howled in celebration, unaware of the full miracle, but feeling the rightness of it in their bones. Zebulon buried his face in her hair, breathing her in like a wolf finally home. "Liriel," he whispered, testing the name, tasting it. "Or whatever name the goddess gave you this time, you're mine. Again." She smiled against his chest, small, stubborn, beautiful. "And you're mine, Alpha. Always have been." They stood like that in the firelight, reborn mates under a silver moon, while the festival drums beat on and the forest sang. The moon goddess smiled from above. Love had waited, and now it was home. Chapter 10. The festival fires still crackled in the clearing when Zebulon lifted Liriel into his arms. Not because she was weak, her strength was already returning, blooming under the pure silver moon, but because neither of them could bear even the small distance of a single step apart. The mate bond thrummed between them like a living heartbeat. Warm, urgent, whole. No shadow, no drain, only the goddess's promise made flesh. He carried her through the cheering pack, wolves howling in joyous welcome, young ones shifting and darting around them like excited pups. Liriel laughed softly against his shoulder. the sound bright and free in a way Eulalie's had never been allowed to be. Her fingers traced the scar along his jaw, familiar even in this new life. "You still have this," she murmured. "Some things don't fade," he answered, voice low and rough with wonder. Not even centuries could take it. They left the festival behind, slipping into the silver forest. Wolves shadowed them at a respectful distance, silent guardians honoring their alpha and his returned Luna. The path to the sacred spring opened before them as though the trees themselves remembered. At the clearing, Zebulon set her down gently on the flat rock beside the bubbling spring. Moonlight painted the water silver now, no trace of crimson left in the sky. Liriel stood, steady, the crescent on her neck glowing softly in rhythm with his own heartbeat. She reached for him first. Her hands framed his face, cool fingers against warm skin, and she rose on her toes to kiss him. This time there was no hesitation, no fear of what the touch might cost. The kiss started slow, reverent, tasting of reunion, but deepened quickly. Centuries of waiting poured into it. His arms wrapping around her waist, pulling her flush against him. Her fingers sliding into his midnight hair, tugging just enough to draw a low growl from his throat. The bond sang bright, feral, hungry in the best way. When they parted, both breathing hard, Liriel whispered against his lips, "Claim me, Alpha, properly, under the moon, like we should have the first time." Zebulon's eyes flashed amber. Pure wolf now, possessive and reverent at once. "Are you sure?" His voice was gravel. "Once I mark you, there's no going back. Not in this life. Not in any." She smiled, small, stubborn, beautiful. The same smile that had once defied elders and prophecy. "I've waited lifetimes for this. Mark me. Make me yours again." He shifted first. Massive black wolf, fur gleaming like polished obsidian under moonlight, amber eyes fierce and tender. Liriel followed. Sleek gray fur tipped with silver, graceful and strong. They circled each other once, tails brushing, scents mingling in a dance older than words. Then he nuzzled her neck, gentle, reverent, and sank his fangs into the soft curve where her crescent glowed brightest. Pleasure exploded through the bond. Not pain, not drain, only fire, sweet, consuming, unbreakable. Liriel's wolf yipped in joy, arching into him as the mark sealed. The crescent flared bright, then settled into a steady, warm glow. His scent wrapped around her completely, storm-wild earth, crushed pine, smoke from a distant bonfire. And hers claimed him in return. Jasmine, moonlight, quiet strength. They shifted back to human form in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Zebulon pulled her down onto the soft moss beside the spring. Reverent hands tracing scars, curves, the new bite mark that pulsed with shared heat. When he entered her, it was slow, deep, worshipful. Eyes locked, breaths mingling, the bond humming louder with every thrust. No curse fed, no life ebbed, only love helpless, complete, eternal. They moved together under the stars, slow at first, then faster, desperate, claiming each other in every way bodies and souls could claim. When release came, it crashed through them like a shared howl, waves of pleasure that left them trembling, clinging, laughing softly against each other's skin. Afterward they lay tangled on the moss, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns along her spine. "I remember pieces," Liriel whispered. "Not everything, but enough. The den, the clearing, the crown, the choice to let go, so you could live." Zebulon pressed a kiss to her temple. "I remember waiting, every full moon, coming here, feeling something missing I couldn't name. Now I know it was you, waiting to come back." She lifted her head, gray eyes shining. "The goddess gave us a second chance. No shadow this time, just us." He cupped her face. "Then let's live it. All of it. No fading, no goodbyes. Just you and me, and whatever time the moon gives us." She kissed him again, soft, promising. "Forever sounds good." They stayed in the clearing until dawn, talking in murmurs. sharing the fragments they each remembered, laughing at how stubborn they had both been, planning the life they would build now. When the first light touched the treetops, they rose. Hand in hand, they walked back to the palace. Alpha and Luna, reborn and whole. The pack waited at the gates, howling in welcome, sensing the shift in the air. Elders bowed low, eyes wide with quiet awe. No one fully understood the miracle, but they felt it. The pack was stronger, brighter, complete. Lyriel stood beside Zebulon on the high steps, crown of moonlight already settling on her brow once more. Not as a weight, but as a promise kept. She looked up at him. Ready to lead with me, Alpha? He smiled, rare, real, unguarded. Always, Luna. They howled together, deep, triumphant, joyous. And Silverfang answered. Epilogue. The years that followed were the kind legends are built from. Quiet, steady, radiant. Lyriel took her place as Luna beside Zebulon with the natural grace of someone who had always belonged there, even if the memories only flickered in dreams. The crown of woven moonlight and silver vines settled on her brow once more during a simple ceremony in the great stone circle. No trials, no draining curse, only the pack's thunderous howls of acceptance and joy. Elders bowed low. Warriors knelt. Pups yipped and tumbled around her feet, sensing the warmth that radiated from her like sunlight through pines. Her memory touch, once a solitary burden, now bloomed brighter in the bond's light, amplified by their unbreakable connection. She could reach deeper, soothe more completely, and give without losing pieces of herself. She walked the fringes and the heart of the territory alike, hands gentle on bowed heads, drawing away griefs old and new. Warriors haunted by lost comrades found peace again. Mothers who had buried pups smiled without shadows behind their eyes. Young wolves facing their first shifts felt steady hands on their shoulders. Memories of fear smoothed gentle. The pack flourished. Borders grew secure under Zebulon's firm leadership and Lyriel's quiet wisdom. Disputes that once ended in blood now dissolved in shared understanding. The silver forest seemed to breathe easier. Trees taller, game more plentiful, the spring in the clearing bubbling clearer than memory recalled. And in the private hours, when the palace quieted and moonlight spilled across their wide bed, they loved without restraint. Nights were filled with slow touches and fierce claiming, his fangs grazing the mark on her neck, reigniting the bond's fire, her nails raking down his back as she whispered his name like a prayer. They laughed in the dark, teased each other about stubbornness that had survived centuries, and sometimes simply lay tangled together, listening to each other's heartbeats sync in perfect rhythm. 3 pups came in time, strong, dark-haired little ones with amber eyes that glowed like their fathers and gray streaks in their fur like their mothers. The first, a boy they named Rowan, shifted early and ran the forest with fearless joy. The twins followed a year later, girl and boy, fierce and inseparable, tumbling over each other in mock battles that always ended in laughter. Zebulon watched them play in the silver grass near the clearing one afternoon, Lyriel beside him, head on his shoulder. "They're perfect," he murmured. "They're ours," she answered softly. Proof that love doesn't always end in ash. He turned, cupped her face, and kissed her, slow, deep, tasting of pine and forever. "You saved me once by letting go," he said against her lips. "You saved me again by coming back." She smiled, small, stubborn, beautiful. "And I'd do it all over, every lifetime." They howled together that evening, deep, triumphant, joined by their pups' smaller, eager voices. The pack answered from every corner of the territory, a chorus that rolled through the pines like thunder made of joy. Decades passed. Fur grayed at the edges. Pups grew into warriors and healers of their own. But the bond never dimmed. Under a moon tinged faintly crimson one quiet night, a gentle echo, never an omen, Zebulon and Lyriel returned alone to the sacred clearing. The spring still bubbled. The stones still gleamed like scattered pearls. They sat on the flat rock where so much had begun. Twice now, visions came soft, unbidden. Fragments of a den cottage, a curse pulsing dark, a crown descending, a final touch that erased everything so one could live. Lyriel rested her head on his shoulder. That life taught us what love costs, she whispered. This one shows what it rewards. Zebulon nuzzled her hair, breathing her in. Jasmine, moonlight, home. I waited centuries for you, he said. I'd wait centuries more. She lifted her face, gray eyes shining. No more waiting, just us, just this. They shifted, black wolf and silver-tipped gray, circling once, tails brushing, then ran together through the forest. No shadow chased them, no drain pulled, only joy wild, helpless, whole. They howled as one, deep, joyous, eternal. The moon goddess smiled from above. In Silverfang, love had conquered ruin not once but twice. Reborn under silver skies. Helpless, complete, forever. This story took days for me to put together like this. I need encouragement to keep moving, so please don't leave without subscribing and clicking the like button.